Welcome to KUUF Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Whoever you are and wherever you come from, for this hour, we here are one gathered congregation, and all are welcome. Please rise in body or spirit to join in singing our musical call to worship. Touch the earth, reach the sky, number 103 in our gray hymnal.
301.
301, yes. My name is Hannah Wandling. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a tall, thin white woman in my mid-20s with a black shirt and green pants. Okay. And our speaker this morning is KUUF's minister, Reverend Victoria Pulling. If you're here visiting this morning, please participate as you feel comfortable. If you are here in person, fidget toys and rocking chairs are available for wiggles and sensory needs, and we have assistive listening systems available. If you need one, please see one of the ushers, and you're also invited to stay and meet people during our coffee hour. Many members of the congregation attend online. If you are visiting online today, you're welcome to introduce yourself in the chat. More announcements about KUUF UU Fellowship activities are available in our weekly email newsletter, The Candle. You can sign up on the website or in the foyer. Let's now take a moment to silence any electronic devices that you don't need to be monitoring for the next hour. Please join me in taking a few centering breaths. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the Aboriginal territory of the Suquamish people. Expert fishermen, canoe builders, and basket weavers, the Suquamish live in harmony with the lands and waterways along Washington's Central Salish Seas, as they have for thousands of years. Here the Suquamish live and protect the land and waters of their ancestors for future generations, as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855.
I'm Reverend Victoria. Today I'm wearing a brown jacket and a green Tree of Life stole, which felt fitting for our garden blessing, which we will be doing today. Our opening words are by best-selling author, editor, activist, and ritual singer-songwriter Adrienne Maree Brown. Science fiction is simply a way to practice the future together. I suspect that this is what many of you are up to, practicing futures together, practicing justice together, living into new stories. It is our right and responsibility to create a new world. What we pay attention to grows. So I'm thinking about how we grow what we are all imagining and creating into something large enough and solid enough that it becomes a tipping point.
We welcome Ruby Woods to come up and light our chalice. Ruby is in preschool and loves the Dog Man book series. Join me now in lighting our chalice. If you have your own chalice or candle at home, please light it as I read our chalice lighting words. To Renew the Spark of Imagination by Reverend Michelle Collins. Here we are together, bearers of imagination, creators of new worlds. It is our imagination that lifts us beyond despair, that whispers, "What if?" and dares us to answer. Today we gather to renew that spark, to embrace the power to dream. Come, let us imagine boldly and worship together. Please join me in the spoken affirmation. The words will appear on the screen. We gather as a caring community, seeking life's deeper meanings. We value diversity and affirm the worth of all living things. We strive to speak truth in love, to act for justice, to grow in spirit, and to care for the earth. We celebrate with open hearts and minds the creative power that sustains and transforms us. Please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing hymn number 1020, Wayaya, in our teal hymnal.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Woyaya, 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 woyaya. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Woyaya, 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 ya, 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 woyaya, ya.
Good morning. Excuse me. My name is Melinda, and today I am wearing a sleeveless black top with white polka dots and black glasses, and I still have sassy red hair. This is our third week exploring the many ways we can use our imagination. So far, we've explored how we can use our imagination to have fun, how we can use our imagination to help others, and today we're going to be exploring using our imagination to think outside the box and solve puzzles life sends us. So with that in mind, I want to tell you a special tale. It's called The Wise Man and the Problem. Once upon a time, long, long ago, in a faraway land, a king faced a difficult challenge. The people of his kingdom needed water, but a massive boulder had fallen in the only well, blocking their water supply. The strongest people in the kingdom tried to move it, but no one could budge the heavy stone. Frustrated, the king called upon the wisest person in the land, and when they arrived, the king said, "We have tried everything, but the boulder will not move. What shall we do?" The wise one did not rush to answer. Instead, they sat by the well thinking. Finally, they smiled and said, "You need to change how you look at the problem." The people were confused. "We must remove the rock or we'll have no water," they cried. The wise one asked all the villagers to bring buckets of water. Though they doubted him, they did as they were asked. Slowly, the wise one poured the water into the well. At first, nothing happened, and the villagers began to panic. "You're wasting the little bit of water we have," the villagers cried. But the wise one kept pouring. And as more and more water filled the space, the boulder began to rise with the water's force. Soon, it was at the top where it was easily pushed aside. The people cheered. The king marveled and said, "We were using strength when we needed to use imagination. You have taught us a great lesson." The wise one replied, "Sometimes the answer is not to fight the obstacle, but to imagine a new way around it." This story reminds us that we can use our imagination to think outside of the box, or in other words, we can use our imagination to solve problems in creative ways. It reminds us, even when we feel stuck, thinking differently can lead to solutions we never imagined. So in the week and days ahead, may all of us, kids and adults alike, hold on to this story and remember to use our imaginations and think outside the box.
As a religious community, together we can do the work of many. By sharing in the sacred act of giving, we transform gratitude into generosity towards our mission. One way that our mission inspires us to act on our shared UU values is to share our weekly offering with a local nonprofit agency providing services within our larger community. Our charitable giving recipient for the month of May is Kitsap Immigration Assistance Center. If you would like your offering to go to this month's charitable giving recipient, please use the envelope inside your order of service. If you need an envelope, please raise your hand and the ushers will bring you one. If you would like your offering to go to KUUF, please put it directly in the basket. Instructions on other ways to make your gift, including a QR code, will be on screen. Let there be an offering to strengthen and sustain our beloved community with a gift of music from Brian Kenny and Matt Haver. Fun song. Thanks, guys. Please rise in body or in spirit to join me in singing Our Children Up to Their Classes. The words for May You Go With Joy will appear on the screens.
So many kids this morning. So good to see. Now is the time in our service when we celebrate each other's joys and we share in each other's sorrows. Because when we share these joys and sorrows together, we hold them and make them easier to bear and greater to celebrate. Let's light a first candle for a sorrow from Michael Walsh, who says, "My friend Jason was killed in a car accident a few weeks ago." So sorry, Michael. We have another sorrow from Marty Bishop, who says, "My sister Diana is in pain. Please keep her in your thoughts and prayers." We have a joy from Cassidy Owen. "My new niece, Layla, was born on May 16, and Mom and Dad are doing well. She is a healthy little girl." And a joy from Ed Luby, which is that our choir director, Alina Hemingway, her barbershop quartet, Voxy, won the first place honors at the Region 13 Sweet Adelines International Competition in Spokane. I've had quite the cycle of life today and our joys and sorrows. Let's light one last candle for all of those feelings moving in our hearts that are yet too tender to share. And now I'd like to invite Suzanne Dunn to come forward to lead a very special blessing today of Nancy Joe's garden. We have the honor of recognizing Suzanne today as a new lay leader who stepped into a role that many people have held before. Suzanne is bringing joy and skill and imagination to revitalizing our garden. On the day that Marty Bishop first showed Suzanne the garden, someone handed her a garden hat. And Marty said, "Suzanne should probably be the one to have it." So I am going to put this hat on Suzanne's head and name her and greet her in the role of our garden tender. So just a little bit of history. Nancy Joe and Mark Jander came to KUUF from the East Coast in 2003, and their energy is what got our garden up and running. By 2008, this community garden plot was developed and supplied Food Line and KUUF with hundreds of pounds of produce. So many gardeners and volunteers have worked the garden since, and we're just very excited that that is going to be revitalized. So I'm curious, who here has worked in the garden before, including recently? Oh, wonderful, a number of volunteers, probably some of you watching online as well. So to bless the garden for this growing season, Suzanne has brought some new raspberries, which you can see here in front of the pulpit, along with some potato starts. And what we're going to do is bless these plants here in the sanctuary because we prioritize accessibility and we recognize getting up into the garden isn't possible for everyone. So those of you online will also be able to participate. The plants, once we've blessed them, will be carried up into the garden and planted where they can spread the blessings all around the whole garden. After the service today, our starting point class will get to go visit, and any of you who would like to go visit as well, Suzanne is excited to welcome you to the garden. So what we're going to do is invite you to come up in just a moment. Suzanne is holding our watering can, and you're going to be invited to dip your fingers in the water and spritz the plants as you go by. And those of you who are watching online, you get to spritz the plants with blessings into the screen. So we'll start over here on the right side of the sanctuary. Would you please go ahead and come forward? We'll just make a line and come this way and go out and around through the doors. Thank you all for offering your blessings to our garden for an abundance of spirit, an abundance of joy, and an abundance of harvest. Please remain seated and join me in our hymn of congregational response, Spirit of Life, number 123 in the Gray Hymnal.
Our first reading is by 20th century Protestant theologian Walter Brueggemann. I may have pronounced that wrong. Who believed that the church should provide a counter-narrative to the dominant forces of consumerism, militarism, and nationalism. The task of prophetic ministry is to nurture, nourish, and evoke a consciousness and perception alternative to the consciousness and perception of the dominant culture around us. Our culture is competent and implement almost anything and to imagine almost nothing, because imagination is a danger. Thus, every totalitarian regime is frightened to the artist, and it is the vocation of the prophet to keep alive the ministry of imagination, to keep on conjuring and proposing future alternatives to the single one the king wants to urge as the only thinkable one.
The words of Walter Brueggemann. Our second reading is a vision of prophetic imagination by just such an artist. Nobel Prize-winning author Toni Morrison from her novel, Beloved. This is a vision of beloved community. And this novel takes place shortly after abolition. When warm weather came, baby Suggs, holy, followed by every black man, woman, and child who could make it through, took her great heart to the clearing, a wide open space cut deep into the woods, nobody knew for what, at the end of a path known to only a few deer and whoever cleared the land in the first place. In the heat of every Sunday afternoon, she sat in the clearing while the people waited among the trees. After situating herself on a huge flat-sided rock, baby Suggs bowed her head and prayed silently. The company watched her from the trees. They knew she was ready when she put her stick down, and then she shouted, "Let the children come," and they ran from the trees toward her. "Let your mothers hear you laugh," she told them, and the woods rang. The adults looked on and could not help smiling. Then, "Let the grown men come," she shouted, and they stepped out one by one from among the ringing trees. "Let your wives and your children see you dance," she told them, and ground life shuddered beneath their feet. Finally, she called the women to her. "Cry," she told them, "for the living and the dead. Just cry." And without covering their eyes, the women let loose. It started that way, laughing children, dancing men, crying women, and then it got mixed up. Women stopped crying and danced. Men sat down and cried. Children danced, women laughed, children cried, until, exhausted and riven, all and each lay about the clearing, damp and gasping for breath. In the silence that followed, baby Suggs, holy, offered up to them her great big heart. She did not tell them to clean up their lives or go and sin no more. She did not tell them they were the blessed of the earth, its inheriting meek or glory-bound pure. She told them that the only grace they could have was the grace they could imagine, that if they could not see it, the world would not have it. A beloved community envisioned by Toni Morrison. Please join me in a moment of silent contemplation. The sounds of new life. In Toni Morrison's novel, Beloved, her main character, Baby Suggs, tells her community, "The only grace you can have is the grace you can imagine. If you can't see it, you can't have it." Set in the years after the Emancipation Proclamation, when Black people were getting each other to places where there was somewhat more freedom, Morrison imagined a sanctuary outdoors where Baby Suggs could gather her people of all ages to laugh and to cry and to dance and to know themselves beloved, to know themselves loved and free. This was a vision of grace for her readers in the time in which she was writing, a beloved community. There are many today who need an act of grace and an image of beloved community more than ever. We here need to imagine grace so that our world and our community can have it. A grace where people of all races and ages, genders and sexual orientations, ethnicities, and every other attribute that you can think of might find a place to relate to one another and to learn to be together. Sometimes I hear people say, "How can we do this? We don't have many people here who are," fill in the blank of your demographic. But that's not the point. The point is, can you imagine it? A diverse, multicultural, beloved community. Because if you can see it, perhaps someday you can have it. In times like the ones we're in, I sometimes feel a yearning for something even beyond an artist's vision. Even an artist has their own lens through which they're working. Something larger than humanity, even, that might take me, that might take us by the hand and guide us to where we need to go, saying, "This is how you build beloved community. This is what it looks like." And I sometimes wonder how to listen to natural laws in ways that would show me how we work together to transform the uses of power by this culture so that we might become more in alignment with Earth's ecosystems and processes. I sometimes even yearn, I'll admit, for a superpower that acts to swiftly correct overreaches and misuse of human power, to correct corruption and favoritism and authoritarianism. Sometimes I even wish for a quickly acting God who would intervene and put a stop to things. But that's not how my Unitarian Universalist theology works. Because that way lie the things that I also resist: authoritarianism, patriarchy, the settler colonial values that persist and insist that land and people and other beings are simply resources for the taking. My theology proposes a natural law, a life energy, a God, a mystery that is present in all things, at all times, through the interrelated web. This is not a mystery that punishes enemies or offers to help me, personally, win against people who I might approach as my enemies in my less charitable moments. This is a life energy that seeks to move through acts of imagination. A life energy that can use whoever is here, whatever is at hand, to create beloved communities everywhere, all at once. Because I believe that it's not just people who don't want to be alone. I believe that this presence that I do call God, that I also call mystery, wants to be with people. Linda Hugon, a Pulitzer-nominated poet and writer of the Chickasaw Nation, wrote an achingly beautiful story of her people, or people in her heritage, responding to the destructive engineering of the Boundary Lakes, called Solar Storms. And I'd like to share a vision of God that comes from this story. People say that in the beginning was the Word, but they have forgotten the loneliness of God. the yearning for something that shaped itself into the words, "Let there be." Out of that loneliness, light was conceived. Water opened across a new world, and people rose up from the clay. There were dreams of plants and deer. This image of God being lonely makes my heart ache. And it makes me want to love that God and celebrate that such a God would dream up the world out of this yearning for togetherness, for closeness with beings who are alive. What an amazing act of imagination. Whether or not you use this word, God, I wonder, can you relate to the sense that there is something, a presence that wants to be together with you? That even as you yearn at times for love and connection with the interdependent web of life, that this web of life is also yearning for you? Could it be that the grace Unitarian Universalists can imagine is a world interdependent where the mystery of life is in the power of creation all around us? A world where we really can and do shape change, even as we resist, even as some of us become fugitive, running and hiding, some of us hiding vulnerable others from systems that oppress. A world where we are just one kind of beloved community that celebrates and delights in the existence of other kinds of beloved communities around us. I'd like to share a story from a couple of weeks ago in which I experienced another kind of beloved community. This will be very intuitive. I attended an improv comedy show. Yes, this is where the beloved community is going to take place. I attended an improv comedy show called Joy Market, which is created by actors who are all from Asian and Pacific Islander heritages and cultures. They showcased each other's talents, giving the stage to a singer whose family is from the Philippines, a traditional dancer with heritage from India, between the comedy sets. The setup for the comedy was that guests were invited to share a recent moment of joy by writing it down on an index card and putting it in a red envelope that was put in a wok. And maybe you can see where this is going because of how we do joys and sorrows here. So during the show, the master of the ceremonies drew random cards and read the joy moment out loud and drew out the audience member to say a little more, and then the actors did their next improv skits based on the story. Well, I got all excited about this because I'm a Unitarian Universalist and I love joys and sorrows, so I wrote down my joy and I put a card in the envelope. Well, my card got pulled. And in that moment, I had a moment of white discomfort. I'm white and Hispanic, and I thought, oh, what's happening is that this AAPI comedy team that has been sharing their stories to be heard by an audience is now going to be sharing a white woman's story. Oh, oops, I wished I hadn't submitted my joy. I felt a little guilt about adding my story to a space that was meant to celebrate other heritages than mine. What I didn't expect is how the actors would work with my story and transform it, to make it their own, to subvert it, and find all kinds of ways to lighten it up and laugh about it. My joy was about organizing a dance party for all ages and all bodies here at KUUF. So are you ready for this? So the MC asked me, well, where did this party happen? And how did this come about? And oh, I was in the hot seat. I had to be honest. Well, I'm a minister at a liberal church where people are struggling, some folks are struggling with this political climate. And we needed some joy, so I organized a dance party. You could have heard a pin drop. In one sentence, I had violated 2 important social taboos. I mentioned religion and politics. Then the MC asked, how did you become a minister? Oh God, I thought, how do I sum up my Unitarian Universalist journey in 2 to 3 sentences? You know your stories and how long it takes you to say how you got here. Well, same. My journey is complicated. So I said the funniest thing that came to mind in the moment, which is, well, I started out as a scientist, which seems like the usual way that happens. Feeling the silence all around me, I was sweating as I elaborated. I used to work in environmental education, and I started wondering about what it would take to change how my culture relates to our environment. And I thought that might have more to do with what we believe and practice than what we think. And there it was, my own tender science fiction dream. To try to discover what helps those of us of the dominant European American, Western, settler colonial culture change not just our minds and our individual actions, but to change entire systems and to live differently. To create not just a beloved community for people, but to imagine a world where this culture is transformed into one that is more life-giving for people and other than human beings. It's a big dream. Well, the comedy team did a great job of pulling funny things out of my story. They did a skit about career changers who throw parties. There was a skit about a shepherd protecting sheep from political wolves. There was a debate where people competed for the best argument for something they all agreed on, which is why joy is important. So my UU world, our experience, got unpacked through the lens of folks whose worlds have been shaped by cultures that have experienced religious colonization. Some of the folks in this group had come to the US to leave religions behind, to work in the tech industry. And maybe some couldn't even imagine that a religion could be a source of beloved community. So I realized in that moment I was witnessing the strength of prophetic imagination that Walter Brueggemann spoke of, where culture can be transformed by artists who keep on conjuring and proposing futures alternative to the single one that a king wants us to urge as the only thinkable one. So there you have it, beloved community as comedy. To me, this dream of beloved community has often felt like science fiction, possible to imagine, yet so far away, like a world in another galaxy that we travel towards on a little ship where we learn about ourselves along the journey, and where we learn to work together as a team like the crew of the Starship Enterprise, to show up with reverence for the interdependent web of life, yet hopefully also with a little bit of irreverence, and without taking ourselves all too seriously. So when I read this quote by Adrienne Maree Brown, whose work is deeply influenced by science fiction writers Octavia Butler and Ursula Le Guin, I loved this idea that science fiction is how we practice the future by telling a story in the present. So here's my science fiction story about how our church and how UU congregations can practice the future. I believe that we can practice creating a sacred space where we discover who we are becoming in relation with this interdependent web. That we can practice an imaginative space of grace where we can stretch in directions that allure us, that open us up to creative risks. And for some of us, we can imagine a space where we can practice speaking and singing freely because we discover best what we think and feel when we express ourselves. For some of us, we need to practice gardening, where we can cultivate beauty that flowers over time and attend to the cycles of life and of death, away from the digital march of change. For some, we practice moving our bodies to dance, to walk, to roll, to sing, to feel, and to touch others with their consent, and to love the body we have, away from the judging gaze of a culture that seeks to control our bodies for its uses. For some of us, we practice fighting for justice, to be warriors in an epic battle where we learn to recognize and name and learn skills to defeat oppressions that bind, where we win liberation for ourselves and others. One mistake we could make in a church is in assuming that our sacred space and our deepest need for imagination is the same as everyone else's, or that others ought to need what we need. Sometimes some of us even make decisions without consulting those most affected. That's why it's so important that we get to know each other, to build trust, so that our relationships will guide us in learning how to respect the needs of others, to listen when someone says we've transgressed their boundaries, to try to reduce suffering by coming alongside pain and sorrow with compassion, empathy, and love. And this world is not merely science fiction. This is a way of practicing the future. In a multi-faith tradition like ours, there are many paths for living love through the practice of imagination. So may we be kind, may we be imaginative, and may we be prophetic on the path that we share in this time that we have to share it. Live long and prosper. Please rise in body or spirit to sing our closing hymn, number 207, Earth Was Given as a Garden. Familiar tune, different words than you may be used to. They'll appear on screen. Yes. Yes. Joy. Just a couple of announcements. The second session of Starting Points, our newcomer class, will meet in the sanctuary after the service from noon to 2 o'clock. I'll be speaking about the historical theology of Unitarian Universalism, and we'll do a walking tour of KUUF. So if you're interested in learning more about Unitarian Universalism, please stay. Just a brief save the date, on May 30th and 31st, we're holding our first of the year KUUF Building and Grounds Work Party. We're going to deep clean the sanctuary and the foyer. Many hands make light work, so come help out, meet people, and make our sanctuary shine. The sign-up sheet is in the foyer. Please do sign up. After the service, you're welcome to enjoy coffee, tea, and treats in the foyer, and plants and vegetables out in the breezeway. Our closing words today are from Reverend Lucy Bunch, who shares this reference. In the closing of his book, The Moral Imagination, Paul Lederach imagines a world where all leaders at all levels are required to attend continuing education at the School for a Moral Imagination. He proposes starting with just 1 week, knowing that there would be a lot of resistance. The classrooms would be mixed up to include people who rarely talk to each other in real life. There would be lots of tea and coffee and very few lecturers. Participants would be required to talk openly and honestly with each other about their hopes and fears. Every day they'd hear a presentation from someone who'd overcome challenges, refugees, survivors, folks who lived with oppressions at every step. At least part of the day, participants would do art, listen to music, write, or pursue creative endeavors. And at the end of that week, they would plant a garden. Blessed be another vision of beloved community.